Welcome. By showing up today, we're creating a self-selecting group of people that are excited and united by the opportunities that are presented by this new frontier, the Metaverse. Today, let's walk through the current landscape and understand the companies and their strategies and how they intend to project themselves into this new space. We can look to history for context and make sense of the development of this new frontier and take the time to explore what we can do individually and collectively to create a metaverse where we can all thrive. Thanks for joining me. Hi, I'm Lori Fena, co-founder of Personal Digital Spaces. I've spent most of my life on new frontiers. First, growing up in Alaska, and later heading to Silicon Valley, where I was a project manager and an entrepreneur. Later, I honed my skills in technology policy at the head of the Electronic Frontier Foundation and later founder of Trustee.org. I wrote a book about privacy and security in the network world and worked with Aspen Institute to hold discussions about the accountable net, how to create an accountability system for a new world. Most recently, I've co-founded a company with a world-class development team to create software API layer that enables data ownership, use licensing, and value exchange, all in real time within applications. Now, like all of you, I'm spending more of my time in the virtual world, sliding our way into the metaverse. It's an honor to speak with you today at the Gatherverse and to lead this discussion about building companies, organizing communities, and creating governance in both the real and the digital frontier. So let's look at the current digital landscape. One striking thing about all of these data companies is they're pretty much oligopolies. They own their marketplace sector. We have companies that monetize data and span the database era, the internet era, and the new blockchain era, all projecting their power into this new metaverse. From the data broker world, if you look at Axiom, they control over 68% of the profiles of people online in the world. Arity claims that they have 60% of the information about people's driving habits in the US. Amazon pretty much owns the retail space. Meta dominates the social networking space, and Google owns the search advertising revenue. Apple is pretty much the #1 in mobility. It's not all negative though. These companies have given us amazing value, incredible connectivity, convenience, and built much of what we think of today's modern economy. However, on the downside, though they have a very dominant position, they can dictate pricing, terms of service, and rules of the game. Interestingly, the lack of competition also has allowed them to stop innovating and improving their business models and their platforms and simply defend their market position. If you look at the data brokers, many of them are offering all-you-can-eat subscriptions, where monthly subscriptions are assessed for how many people use the service. It's not by the value or the quality of the data. And as we know, in a competitive marketplace, this all-you-can-eat buffet model doesn't always derive the most value. You can look to the real world and history to really see how that plays out. If we look at a competitive New York City restaurant market, we see that not a lot of buffet restaurants. The marketplace has differentiated across a variety of pricing and service levels and an entire spectrum of quality offerings and price differentiation. In a more robust marketplace, you see a lot more innovation, new products, price differentiation associated with that breadth of offerings. If we look at the internet era, it's really dominated by a business model that's focused on online advertising. The advertising business model is gated by a number of eyeballs and the number of hours in the day. So we have many companies that are all vying for the same people's time and attention. It's a zero-sum game. They must increase their market share by engaging or limiting access to monetization information about their users from other competitors. We've seen a number of interesting moves recently. There was a major move by Apple to, in the name of privacy, remove the capability of other enterprises of accessing or monetizing data of users on their platform. Although this may have played out or been advertised as a privacy-enhancing move, it actually was a great monopoly power move by Apple to become the exclusive controller of user data on their platform. As we look at this engagement advertising business model, it's interesting because it doesn't track the growth of data, which is explosive. Although the data on their platforms is growing, and none of these companies are capitalizing on that growth or value. So we think there's a great opportunity for companies and competitors to capture this missed opportunity and value with new business models and innovative systems. If you look at the blockchain era companies, you can see that Ethereum and Bitcoin are the dominant players, and the business is driven primarily by speculation. The data is simply buy and sell transactions all recorded on a blockchain. Although NFTs have received a lot of attention and an incredible amount of investment by VCs, most of the large brands, competitors, and businesses are not participating. They're standing back. They're trying to understand how does their brand, their IP, and their business translate into this new marketplace. The biggest volume in these areas right now are a small number of speculators and content creators, many of whom are crypto whales. The market is buoyed by high dollar transactions associated with a very small group of assets and a very small group of traders. So again, a very nascent marketplace that holds a great deal of promise, but needs a lot of work to deliver on that promise. There's great opportunity for people and companies that want to innovate and create better systems. One key aspect that overarches all of these three data economy sectors is that the data supply chain is extremely opaque. The provenance of the data, where the data's come from, how it's being used, and how it's being monetized is something that's not tracked or traced. It could almost be called a gray market. And the only thing we can be sure of is that there's a great amount of data about everybody that's being controlled and monetized by a very few. So today's oligarchs are really digital empires. And historically, empires have employed feudalistic systems to settle and maintain their vast holdings. We've seen this with ancient Europe, feudalistic Japan, medieval Europe, and the Holy Roman Empire. What we haven't often thought about is feudalism isn't exclusive to countries. It also has been employed by companies. The Dutch West Indies Company was a transnational corporation that made land grants of land and power to patroons, and they settled the state of New York. And they gave exclusive power to a small number of individuals to create monetary systems where these individuals gained all of the value from the work of many and the land of everyone. Are today's transnational corporations going to use similar kinds of tactics? That's something we need to think about. Also, even more recently, we can look to the Wild West of the U.S. There's been many comparisons drawn in the NFT space, where you have large interests like railroad companies and other established players moving into this new territory and amassing great deals of land deals, as well as all kinds of hucksters that are selling land that they don't actually own. So we're really in a space where a lot of what we've seen today in the digital world is something that we can really learn from a great deal of the historical precedent. So we aren't in a new space. We have a lot we can look at and draw on and learn as we move into this new metaverse. Okay, this is not all doom and gloom. Because this is a new tech epoch, it levels the playing field. It gives the opportunity for companies that take a much more decentralized approach can capture the value of this expanding universe of data, the expansion of the number of data owners, and a decentralized approach to marketplaces, where it's not just a single marketplace, but marketplaces that can map to existing trade, supply chains, and solve global problems. What does it take to build a metaverse based on fair trade, empowerment of individuals, and healthy competition amongst companies? It could be as simple as a transparent and decentralized system that enhances the veracity of data ownership and rights. It must seek data use and engagement through volunteerism and recognize the value across the entire information supply chain. And lastly, it must create an accountable system that matches the velocity of data usage. Every new epoch of technology restarts a Darwinian sorting of companies and ideals. Let's build a metaverse where we can all thrive. I hope the Gatherverse is going to be the catalyst for those ideas, relationships, and actions. Let's get going.